All right, welcome everybody to Tuesday Night Workshop at Monarch Family Chiropractic. I'm Dr. Kristen, and we're going to jump right into talking about mindfulness and meditation tonight, and hopefully go over some things that you may know or may know some of and can add to your self-care. Excuse me. Oh, hang on, I got to do a different button for my screens here. Try to get me out of the way as much as I can. So in talking about mindfulness, we're going to talk about just where this has come about, where it's come from, and really what it means, because a lot of people think of, understand a portion of maybe what meditation is or do their own version of that. And in just covering a little bit about where it is and where it's come from, it's really defining that word is talking about your ability to just be fully aware and fully present in where you are and what and who's around you, and really being truly in a moment. So when we talk about the different tools or the different things that you're doing, it's really something that you already possess and an ability you have to do. It's just being able to tap into it and put more attention to it. And so there's also a component of when you're doing and working on mindfulness and how to be present, it's really that acceptance and attention of our own thoughts and feelings without any judgment. It's also that in the given moment, there isn't really a right or a wrong way to think or feel. So we tend to let ego jump in and maybe pick that for us or choose or feel like we have to choose that. And so it's just being and sensing the present moment and not so much looking about we're trying to either rehash something from a past or imagine the future. And that can be very hard for us to just literally be in the present. And not necessarily, again, putting our own judgment upon what that is. In practicing mindfulness and really honing in on our body's innate ability through meditation, we're going to talk about, these are the benefits that I put off to the side because my screen share pictures don't always sometimes look fuzzy. They don't always come through clear. So it's really talking through what they are doing at multiple colleges, multiple universities, in lots of big ways, showing how beneficial this is. So there's a couple things I'll share with you at the end that's more in relation to the research and the study and the science that, or the practice of this that's being done and being recorded to show benefits in many health realms. And these are some of those proven benefits that they see through the studies that have been done. So really reducing, indicators of chronic stress. We've talked about chronic stress in lots of other workshops. And, it's all the things that if you think about anything inflammatory, that is what creates chronic inflammation in the body, chronic stress to the system. So when we have a less inflamed system, right, and less stress, we have a stronger and more boosted immune system. And it also works with what they test in memory and in reaction times. It is a very good mechanism for coping through and healing through traumas. And also they see a decrease in that, when you can decrease that fight or flight response in the body and some of that sympathetic that we talk about when we talk about a lot of the polyvagal work that we do and how to get back those two in sync with each other, if you will, and in balance, then we see a decrease in, that irritability or that anxiety, and what can happen when the system is in that dormant state, right, or shut down state, or in that freeze state that we talk about, can lead to sometimes the depression. So decreasing those is all a positive sign, obviously, in doing some of these types of tools and being mindful and using meditation. This is some of the research that I just have in that bubble, but it's current research. It's stuff that's happening and that was just published through this month, just this past week. And there's a lot of research out there, but there's a lot of books out there too by certain different authors that are in all kinds of health realms, not just in homeopathic or in a more of a naturopathic realm, but in medical and PhD work being done, talking about how ways in which our mind, our brain is really what influences our health. And so it talks about that difference between when the mind is taken care of, when the mind's in a better state, we are healthier beings. So we talk about the 3 R's. And again, we could go into a lot of in-depth detail there, but what I want to do is this is kind of a way to get you going, get you started, and things to look at. So when we talk about 3 R's of meditation, it's really recognize, refrain, and relax. And we would add a 4th R, which is just that you would repeat that. That we know everything we do, that the brain needs that repetition to change a pattern. And so it's about doing this process that we're going to talk through over and over and over again. And this is going to go into more of the detail. So sorry, this is such a text heavy slide. Some of my stuff was copying over in a not so visual way, but it gets the data there. So when we talk through this, then maybe some of the other things will make sense in the other slide. So when we want to recognize the ability, it's really that ability to identify a particular experience, right? So to be mindful is to recognize that thinking when a thought arises, or to recognize a feeling when an emotion arises, or to recognize sensing something when a sensation occurs. So recognition is really important because it just requires that awareness to slow down and to really, again, be present in what that experience is. The refraining is more about not, refraining from reacting or automatically having a reaction when a strong feeling arises. Meaning to, refrain, how it says, from acting out habituated behavioral patterns that are based on fear or judgment. So typically we're acting out of those reactive patterns, right? With an experience, or it can be something intense pain, but it could be something of intense pleasure, that it creates just a strong emotional response. And so it's watching how we react to that automatically, just again, based on either a past experience or something that's sort of a programming in us from something previous. And there's more depth to this, because to refrain is really to be willing to live in the unknown, which is not very comfortable for people. That's a very vulnerable place to be, right? But taking a deep breath, dropping into just that direct awareness rather than an unconscious activity or reactivity to a past experience. So not suppressing the experience, but simply not automatically reacting. Because it's talking about how when any reaction is a response, or response to it is something we want to watch what we're deliberately choosing to respond to, I guess. So to pause and to experience life more directly than kind of living in that autopilot or living in a previous experience moment. And then relaxing the body, opening things up, quieting the mind, and really begins with deep breaths. But it's sensing that body, being present to where we are, where our heart is, and willing to stay open in that exact moment, and not necessarily wanting to go past that or go faster than that into something else or into the next thing, the next place. There's also a component talks about with relaxing that it's also meaning that clinging to pleasure just because of simply accepting something when it's there, and letting it leave when it does. So relaxing the mind, not clinging to any kind of view and opinion, or holding any judgments on ourselves or on anyone else, when we are practicing this practice. And again, it's being okay with being uncertain with something. So when we talk about honing in on this, they talk through when you're going to experience this, the 5 senses that you want to go through, and we'll do a little bit of this together tonight. And where some of this came from talks about the domains that they were kind of labeled when early Buddhist monks were using this type of practice. And it's explained and established with those 4 categories. And really, we look at practice of mindfulness. It's got to be it's breathing, it's guided imagery, other ways to relax the body and mind, that help reduce stress is really the different types and the domains in which they fall in. And what we're all probably more familiar with is how we're tapping into our senses around those things. So there's different methods, there's different types, but I think all of them really incorporate the 5 senses of the body and how we want to experience each moment. Before we go into doing some practice of that, and if I can get this video to play, watch a quick video, is, what it's not. And I just thought that it just, broke down that it's not, doesn't have to be the sitting and chanting. It doesn't have to be seated a certain way. It's not something that's, a religious or cult in nature. Doesn't have to be complicated or difficult. And it doesn't have to be time consuming. This isn't something where, you've got to be in a 30-minute, 20-minute meditation to be, and even practicing mindfulness. It's very much the opposite of that. It's doing it many times throughout your day in very small increments than it is to just be sitting, trying to be in a different state. And accepting the unacceptable. And it's about not necessarily, doing that. It's challenging that, I guess I'd be challenging that, right? That I wouldn't want somebody to accept that something's just unacceptable. I think that that's putting something in a box that doesn't necessarily need to be there. So it's being able to go into a place of, there may be another way. This is what I don't know if I can share. Can I share screen with a second screen just to play something?
I would open it up.
Oh, I don't know if it'll allow me to go from there. Let's see.
Yeah, and then the big thing, go ahead and pause it. You want to make sure it's taking it right now. Yeah, it's sharing, but go ahead and hit stop share. And then hit share again. We just need to make sure share sound is on. There you go, and then share. Yeah, this dismiss that, so that's the other one.
Yeah. I have to go through the whole process to go back out of it.
No, now it's just sharing the sound. That's the biggest thing.
Okay.
So it'll follow you whatever screen you go to.
Okay. Let's see. There's a bunch of pieces from this, and I may just fast forward a little bit, but I think it's good to hear through one of the well-known researchers in the field and who practices this and teaches this, John Kabat-Zinn, is really talks through, sits down and does this documentary with Oprah, but it was really cool to kind of hear just it broken down simply, and then different aspects and way in which he would use it and teach it.
This could be a game changer.
If you're zoning along on autopilot, you may miss the most beautiful aspects of your own life.
Mindfulness is a love affair with life. Renowned scientist and mindfulness expert, John Kabat-Zinn.
What mindfulness is saying is find your own way.
Help yourself become more mindful.
If you could get out of your own way, you could be yourself 24/7.
Super Soul Sunday. All new Sunday, 11 a.m., 10 Central, only here.
So is mindfulness science? Is it art? Is it spiritual?
It's a gateway into the full dimensionality of being human and being alive.
I love that. It's a gateway into the full dimensionality of being human. And without it, you're just missing out.
Well, you're missing a lot. If you miss the look in your child's eye one day, you've missed it. If you've missed the look in your lover's eyes, the next day you've missed that. If you miss the beauty of sitting under trees, well, you've missed that. If you sum that over many moments, many years, you may wind up missing the most beautiful aspects of your own life. Mm-hmm. Who are you going to blame for that? Oh, I was too busy. Well, who is too busy? Who tells oneself, I don't have any time? When all you've got is time, all you've got is this moment.
When John Kabat-Zinn began meditating as a young man, the practice was considered the product of the 60s counterculture. It wasn't considered science, but in 1979, he had this revolutionary idea to bring meditation and yoga to mainstream medicine. He developed a program called mindfulness-based stress reduction to help patients transform the experience of pain by changing their relationship to it. Over the last 35 years, John's trailblazing approach to health and healing has gone mainstream, bringing relief to countless patients suffering chronic illnesses and pain Today, his 8-week mindfulness-based stress reduction course is available in more than 700 medical centers, hospitals, and clinics around the world. Let me ask you this. Do you have a morning ritual?
Yeah, of course.
What is it?
I wake up and I do yoga and then I sit.
Mindful.
Drop in. Yeah.
Drop in.
Yeah.
Okay.
So waking up, of course, is what it's all about. I mean, it's about being awake, right?
Yeah.
But there's waking up and then there's waking up. So you can wake up and like drag yourself around. So brushing your teeth meditation, being in the bathroom, it's all like part of it. But then I go downstairs, I get on my yoga mat, and I have a routine that I've developed over the past 50 years that's just like what I like to do. And I do that mindfully. So it's mindful yoga. And then out of that, when the time is right, maybe it's an hour, maybe it's 40 minutes or whatever it is, then I drop into sitting. And I usually sit cross-legged on the floor, but you can sit in a chair. And I just kind of drop into the body. Body is like a really important part of this. Can we live inside the body? Because most of the time we don't. And then can we rest in awareness? Just rest, underline rest, in wakefulness, in awareness, in mindfulness, in heartfulness. And that's the practice. Now, there are a lot of different ways to do it. There are a lot of different details. But the most important thing, I think, for your viewers is drop in. Drop in on yourself and rest for a stretch of time. And then as you go about your daily life, mindfulness in everyday life.
Check in. It's just like that.
Once an hour, once a minute,
Check in.
once a day. It's like you decide, but at a certain point, it's going to wind up teaching you. You know, we like to say, I meditate. You know, here's another one, like I'm breathing, I'm meditating. Or you'll say, I'm doing the practice. That's a way meditators talk. They tell you, I'm doing my practice. After a while, it doesn't feel that way anymore. It feels more like the practice is doing me. I am learning so much. It's like the world is teaching me everything I need to know if I only get quiet and drop in and attend. And guess where we are? We're here. And guess when it is?
Right now.
It's now again.
It's right now. Lovely. Thank you. Thank you.
I'm going to share one other little piece with you here. Oh, this might not be what I want. Oh.
Hi,
I didn't realize it was doing that, sorry.
How do we balance the doing with the being?
Yeah. Well, mindfulness is all about being. And the cliche goes, we're called human beings, but we actually have lost touch with that element of life. That's what we were doing, sitting around fires as hunters and gatherers. We were being. But now it's gotten so much more complex. What mindfulness is saying is find your own way. Listen to your own heart. Listen to your own, use the word longing.
Longing.
Listen to your own yearning. Because what we're really trying to do is live our life as if it really mattered.
Because it does.
And it does. And I like to say, more than you think, and then more than you can think.
It's interesting. When people have a difficult time understanding it, I think your shower example is the best.
You remember that?
Yeah.
I like to say to people, okay, here's a little homework for you after we've talked about mindfulness. And it's very important to keep in mind that mindfulness is not a concept, it's a practice. You have to actually exercise a certain kind of muscle. So I say, here's a little mindfulness homework for you. The next time you're in the shower, check and see if you're in the shower. Because you may not be in the shower, or you may have your whole Monday morning, 9 o'clock meeting in the shower with you. But you're not actually there under the water, feeling the water on your skin. You're off in the future or off in the past. So that's exercising the muscle. The more you do that, the more you realize, when I'm in the shower, I'm in the shower. When I'm brushing my teeth, I'm brushing my teeth. When I'm saying goodbye to my family, I'm saying goodbye to my family. It only takes a fraction of a second longer to do it with awareness.
Okay, so everybody who's watching this right now, the next time you get in the shower, you're going to think, am I in the shower? Or are you in the meeting? Or are you already
Check.
on the freeway?
Yeah.
Check.
And as soon as you check, you're back.
so there's lots of great tidbits in this interview that she does with them, but it's about another 7 minutes or 8 minutes. And so wanting to honor everybody's time, I want to drop back to, we have these links. So if you want to get that link or copy that link, or go back when the workshop is posted and pull that up and watch all of that, I think you'll find it helpful and maybe give you other tips. He obviously has all of his own research and books they developed and an 8-week program that they were talking about, but they're using this in veteran centers, they're using it in hospitals, they're using it in schools, in prisons, they're using it in places where people need to be practicing mindfulness, and in with groups of people that it's serving. So there's, again, more research talking about mindfulness and how it really helps create a calmer classroom with kids and reducing anxiety. So they're using this to help, hopefully show that there's a way in teaching these practices to help people get their own, support themselves, and instead of just being maybe reliant on a medication to help control how they feel. So in practice, mindfulness is an ongoing process, as he explained. It's not perfect, and really because we never do it perfectly, because we're not judging ourselves. It's not about that, and because there really is no absolute right. It's just where you are. It's just what's right in that moment. And like we talk about a lot in chiropractic, like as long as we're living and breathing, we're never finished, right? So as far as the starting block and the finish line are always the right here and the right now. So trying to stay out of looking to like, there's a goal, this end goal I have to get to, whatever that is, XYZ. And I really liked this quote. And what I wanted to do is just be able to practice this. And being able to just do a few minutes before we close out together. So I'm going to talk you through a few things. So if everybody that is here online and with us in the office wants to just get to a place where they're comfortable in their seat, if they want to get on the floor, get on the floor. I would suggest just being in a comfortable upright position. Feet planted on the ground if you are sitting. Resting your hands just on your top of your thighs, or if you're sitting at a station on the top of your desk. And we're going to just do some breaths. And it's really just about first noticing your breath. So we're going to do not any particular breathing way, like we've talked about in the past. If you know a breathing technique that you like, then drop into it, as he says. Otherwise, just bring attention to each part of the breath. The inhale, the exhale, and the space between. And as you're doing that, it's okay if you begin to notice that thoughts come into your mind. It's completely normal. Our brains are designed to really be thinking. But if we can relearn to just refocus our attention and take that opportunity to just be kind to ourselves and not judge ourselves. And just notice that if you are having thoughts, just redirect your attention back to the present moment. And I think as you bring in the other senses, that may be easier to do. So as we've just focused in on the inhale, the exhale, and the space between our breath, we're going to bring awareness to each of the 5 senses, one at a time, for about 30 seconds to a minute each. And the point is just really to focus on the present moment and how each sense is being activated in that moment. And the order in which you pay attention to each sense truly doesn't matter. So we're going to start with just hearing and begin to notice the sounds around you. Not to judge any sounds, but just notice them. They are not good, they are not bad, they just are. Sounds may be internal, like the sound of your breath or the sound of digestion happening. Sounds that might be close by or off in the distance, like the muffled of traffic. Are you now hearing more than what you heard before when you started? Or you may begin to notice subtle sounds you did not hear before, and can you hear them now? Next, we're going to just shift our attention to smells and the smells of our environment. You may smell food. You may become aware of the smell of trees or plants if you're outside. Possibly books or paper, things if you're around text. And if your eyes are open now, sometimes closing eyes sharpens your attention to smell. Next is how and what we see. So observing what's around us. So if your eyes are closed, open them. And it's noticing colors, maybe shapes or textures that you see. In doing so, it may really allow you to, something we say in our house often is, did you look or did you look? Right? Did you kind of look past certain things to see something more detailed? Next, we're going to drop into taste. And you can do this one even if you don't have food in your mouth. You may notice an aftertaste of something you previously drank or ate. Or just noticing your tongue and your mouth. Your saliva. Same thing, the breath as you inhale and exhale. Sometimes we have tastes in our mouth that often go unnoticed or just not given any attention to. Run your tongue over your teeth or the inside of your cheeks, if that just helps you become more aware with taste. And lastly, touch. Bring your attention to the sensations of your skin in contact with either your chair, your clothing, how your feet feel on the floor. Can you notice pressure between your feet and the floor or your body in the chair? You can observe temperature, like whether it's warm or cool on your hands or feet. You might take time to feel the textures again that you noticed by sight a moment ago. You can feel several objects either on your desk or just fully focus your attention on one. So when finished, I would ask you to just pause and notice how your body feels in this moment. Compare how you feel now to how you feel 5 minutes ago. Has anything changed? This is a great exercise to do when you're feeling overwhelmed, or even just in a situation of before you have to give a speech or take a test, or maybe get in front of a group of people, right? So hopefully that gave you just a little bit of a window into mindfulness, maybe gave you some tools in which you can look up and see what resonates with you in the way in which you'd like to practice mindfulness in a way of maybe in a meditative way. And there's plenty of other resources we could direct you to in future times together. So hopefully that gave you some experiences and something easy to do in a moment's notice, multiple times of your day, and just make it your own to whatever suits you and when it suits you. And again, remembering that it's practice and that we're not reaching some end goal per se. We are just constantly being aware and dropping in to the present moment. So thank you for joining us. Thank you for hanging out a few extra minutes to do that exercise with us. Hopefully you all joined us and you can have some great feedback when you're in the office this week for your adjustment, and let us know what you experienced after doing some mindful meditation. Thanks, everybody. See you soon.